Hi everyone, this is Miss Bramlett and I am coming to you from my office. This is the second week of our new semester and I wanted to briefly go over a few things with you that are important to ed tech students. Let's go ahead and look at the course shell. The first thing I want to talk about are the announcements that I have available for you. The first one, this is the alternative method to getting your child maltreatment form to me. We are actually only going to use this method starting in summer 2021. So even if you do the old way, which is just to sign the ASUBB approved form, you will eventually have to also complete this mandated reporter website. Well, actually, it's not really a long form. It is something that you just have to fill in, kind of like the one that you signed. This is something the nursing students use, and it is something we are changing to as education students. So, long story to just say, you have two ways to get me the child maltreatment form this semester. You can use the old way that'll still work for this semester, or you could go ahead and transition to the new form. Even if you've sent me the old form, if you want to go ahead and send me a copy of the new one so you don't have to do it again, that's fine too. But if you're planning to take classes in summer or in fall, you will have to print off this certificate for me in the future. So it is really up to you this semester when you get that done. But I would ask that anyone who is having trouble downloading the form, the original form, try this alternative to get it completed. Now, I will tell you that you cannot graduate until you have this form. Okay, you have to have a mandated reporter form on file in the registration, or I'm sorry, in the registrar's office, registrars. You have to have this form. All right, so the next one you can look at on your own, but it's just transfer information for spring 2021. Some of you are leaving after this semester and you still don't have a firm grasp on your transfer plans. This is something I do every semester. We go over the different alternatives to where you can transfer. I list two here. One is A-State, the other is UCA. Both great institutions that work very well with us, but you have to understand that they are separate institutions. So you have to apply to these colleges separately. Just because you were accepted into ASUBB doesn't mean you get into the next institution without any kind of paperwork. You have to apply to A-State if you're going to do the Jonesboro program on our campus, because we are sister schools, but we're not the same school. You have to apply to UCA if you're going to do their transfer program. But there's more information here, and I put contact people on here for you as well. Okay, as far as our modules in Ed Tech, we are in the second module. And like I said, I am in the process of, finding new things for us to do instead of the textbook pages. Now, in Module 2 instructions, of course, we're not going to do the textbook, so we're just going to skip to the next ISTE standard, which is LEADER. And if you will go to that anchor standard and read the standard itself and the substandards, that will be a good start to what we are going to do. All right, and then sorry, I'm going to change all that for you. And of course, I'll have to do this for every lesson. You are still responsible for knowing these terms. However, they are all, I have some specific places that I will get for you guys in a follow-up announcement to get these definitions. But we will talk about each one of them very briefly today. Uh, ebooks and e-reader are just like they sound. They are books that are online. Thankfully, there are so many to choose from right now. Being in the middle of a pandemic, it's very difficult for some kids to get their hands on books, which just breaks my heart. But thankfully, with technology, kids are able to read anywhere they're at with a device. The next is the connectivity gap and the digital divide. Now, both of those kind of work hand in hand. The connectivity gap just means that there are some people that have internet and there are some that don't. There are some people that have access to um, computers, and then there are some that really don't. And the nation as a whole was kind of thrust into this digital divide connectivity gap argument when the pandemic started, because it was apparent that not everybody was able to go to school from home, and not everyone was was ready for transitioning into that virtual learning world when we all had to do it back in March of 2020. The digital divide leads sometimes to an achievement gap, which is just as it sounds, it's a gap in the achievement of students. Some students will be able to learn more due to the resources that they have. The next two words, teacher-centered philosophy and student-centered philosophy, are just like they sound. One is teacher-centered is when the learning and everything kind of revolves around the teacher, and everything has to do with what the teacher's doing. A student-centered philosophy is just the opposite. The student is the center of all the learning. The student is the center of it all. The next word is flipped classroom. And I was a big proponent of that. I did that all the time in my old school. They did most of the hands-on work in the classroom, and then they would go home and they would do the reading or they would do the prep work. And that's what makes flipped classroom so much fun, because there is a lot of full-on engagement and things going on within the classroom where students are the center of the learning. The ISTE standards, hopefully by week 2, you know what those are. Not all of them. Well, you know what they are, not each one of them, but we are doing one standard at a time, remember, and this week we're doing leader. But you just need to be aware of what the ISTE standards are. The next two things are digital natives and digital immigrants. I am a digital immigrant. I was born in 1981. You can do the math. And I was one of the last generations to not have laptops and Chromebooks and PCs in high schools. I mean, we would have a couple in the library, and then we would have a couple of word processing courses or business courses that used computers, but we were not the generation that really used a lot of technology. I didn't have my own phone till I was 17, well, maybe 16. But we couldn't text on them, and they were quite bigger than they are now. Not like Zach Morris bigger, but they were flippy. There was a big phone that had a flip bottom to it where you could flip it and talk and stuff. But it was really interesting to be part of that generation, because we've really seen how technology has changed our world. You, on the other hand, you are digital natives. Well, some of you may be with me and be digital immigrants, but if you are an 18-year-old freshman, you are a digital native. You don't remember a time when there wasn't Google or cell phones or computerized systems everywhere, or card swipers at the Dollar General. You don't remember a time when there wasn't that stuff for you. The next two, teacher facilitated technology versus student facilitated technology. It's kind of like teacher-centered philosophies versus student-centered philosophies. This is just basically the teacher facilitates the technology, like she's teaching from a smart board. She's facilitating it. A student-facilitated technology example would be when the student himself or herself is doing the actual work on the computer or the app or whatever it is. And those are the words that the digital disconnect goes in with the connectivity gap issue. So I'm going to take that one out because it's starting to sound redundant. But these are the words that are going to be on your final. And again, those were brief explanations. They're easy to Google the definitions, but I will have a EdTech dictionary for you guys so you can look them up. And that is it.